It took us an hour, but where are we? What has happened? And it doesn't matter.
Keith isn't streaming the game to me, by the way.
Oh,
I'm in a dark room. The lights aren't on, and I can't see anything. Someone help!
No, it's fine. You're finally free. It was foreshadowed by the time I said it's Roswell's line, and you're like, no,
it's not. It's not. Toaster is gonna sit here and watch 20-year-old G4 X-Play reruns on YouTube while Keith reads a game.
Just Toaster is reduced to ambient noise.
Yeah, every once in a while I'm like, and that's it. That's all you hear.
You can just hear him working on something in the background.
Let's give some life updates here. What have I been up to since the last password thing? I finished reading a book, which was good. I liked it.
Whoa!
And then I spent $100 on Steam in a panic purchase because I needed to feel dopamine. I wanted to buy games, so I bought a bunch of games that just came out. So yeah, that was my week. How was your week, Keith?
I finished.
What great things have happened to you?
I finished writing gay horror porn.
That's fun.
Which I was working on for a while. And then I put out a thing for proofreaders, and some people that actually write looked at it and seemed to think it was good. Now and said I was avoiding the pitfalls of novice writers and everything. And then Kyle looked at it and said, "This is longer than chapter 1 of No Way Home." And I'm like, oh. And then I looked, and it's longer than my last 2 video essays. And if the revision makes it any longer, it'll be longer than the plush video essay. So it'll be longer than everything since at Aster, which was 3 hours long, which is a bit of a leap to clear that threshold. Did make me think a little bit. I'm like, maybe it's not completely insane to like start poking at writing a visual novel. For me, the struggle is just like, I like writing scenes and characters and figuring out stuff, and like I like the process of like having cool ideas in the middle of writing and like getting to work those in and everything. Whenever I try to think of long-term plans for the whole structure of a story, I just blank, and I do not want to start without a plan for a thing like that. I understand like the idea of like have a plan but be ready to change the plan, but I do need to have a plan. I can't just be like, maybe I'll figure out themes and an arc or an ending eventually. That's terrifying. A lot of people do that though. McSkinny's like, that's the fun part. McSkinny says like that's the thing to do, is to just fucking just write linearly and just go, and that's the fun of doing a furry visual novel. And that's terrifying to even think that that's how he did Jenna and Flynn and so on. But holy shit. Anyway, also I've been procrastinating on watching any more Clone Wars because the next episode is droids for like 4 episodes straight.
That's pain. Yeah, the droid episodes are bad, and I gave Keith, when he started watching Star Wars, I gave him like a big viewing order spreadsheet of like, here are Star Wars arcs in order and also rated for like how much of a waste of time they are. And every single droid episode is like, you can skip this. This is not worth watching. And I don't think you've really skipped anything so far.
I've never skipped anything yet, and I'm all the way in like season 5, I think.
Yep,
the one
the
that
last
starts,
season of the show.
It starts with like Vader. It starts with Darth Maul being back.
Yes,
because he like
the last season of the show when it aired on Cartoon Network.
Weirdly, Darth Maul being back is like a cliffhanger between the end of the last episode and the start of the new episode, but it's only 1 episode on each end. And this is a season full of 4-episode arcs, so it's hilarious how brief Maul is for a season opener, and then he just goes away again, to the point where they're willing to spend 4 episodes on younglings, and then 4 episodes on droids back to back, and you're like, huh. But yeah, watching the youngling episodes, I'm like, oh, I played this level in the Force Star Wars Jedi game, man. Redhead McGonagall. Flynn McGonagall, that's his name. Monahan De La Rosa.
What? What?
Monahan.
Who are you talking about?
I can't find the Joker's Jedi's name in my brain.
Cameron Monaghan.
Hey! I was there almost.
Yeah. You were close.
I had Monahan there, like I was like right on the edge of getting that name right.
You were very close. You were very close.
So anyway, that's how life's up to.
Yeah,
Password.
that's good. Password is happening at us.
So the truly
It will
surreal thing
continue.
is that, and I don't subscribe to the idea that fiction is just escapism, but it is frequently escapism. And
Yeah.
I'm someone who sits in my room most of the time, and you're someone who
Yeah.
sits in your room most of the time.
Yes.
Our real lives are moving faster than Password.
Yeah.
A book.
Yeah. Correct.
And I'm just like, say what you want about fucking Dan Brown, but I'm missing those page turners right about now. Those little 2-page chapters where just shit just keeps happening. There's 140 chapters a book. He could write a book that moved forward and things happened in.
Yeah, it's crazy reading actual books. I don't want to talk about the world right now because I'm not going to do it. We're just not going to talk about the 7 decades that have happened in the course of the past week in reality. But I will say I read a 700-page book in like 3 days, and it's crazy to think how fast novels move in comparison to Password. Like, yeah. It's crazy. I keep talking about it on episodes of the shows that we make and like the Elden Ring playthrough, but like I feel like I am a broken record talking about it, and I feel like everyone who likes this author is like this too. But like Brandon Sanderson's a good writer, and he writes very quickly, and he writes a lot of words, and it's just sort of remarkable how fast a 700-page long book goes when it's well written and the world is well like developed and like the themes are really potent and tangible, and that's why people should read Mistborn. It's really good.
I feel like I've never read 100 pages in a day.
Let me look at my ebook reader because I have it set to tell me like my pace. I read 432 pages yesterday.
That's fucked up.
So there you go. Yeah, and it was 4 hours of reading, so just a little over 100 pages an hour.
Give me $1 million so I can hire Toaster as a co-writer so that he can help me with research on things, because that's a roadblock for me.
Yeah.
I make real slow progress through things.
research is tough, but I don't.
But in this case, research usually means reading and rereading the fiction.
Yes. Hiccup. Sorry. Hold on. Okay.
Well, it's basically the only reason I didn't get a Mist video out in 2023 was because I'm like, 3 books and 8 games. It took us an hour, but we've actually all got something and met in the foyer. So we got something. We all got something. Not that we felt the extra hour made us any more ready for what we were about to do. Haas had a knife. Tyson had a gun. Just a gun. Someone gave him a gun. He doesn't know how to use it. Okay. Sal had been lumped with the sword from upstairs as well as having a gun of his own. What the fuck? It's fucking Final Fantasy. Sal has a sword and a gun at the same time. That just seems inefficient. Roswell had his vials of acid and Orlando had a kitchen knife. Oh. I appreciate this, I appreciate that gun and gun are just guns, but knife and kitchen knife are different weapons.
Yes.
We have more specificity.
They have different
stats.
One scales with dexterity and one scales with strength.
Yeah. It's like we have more delineation in knives than we have in guns, which are probably much more different from each other, being from an armory. I don't imagine Haas's knife is in any way combat oriented, so I don't know how it's not a kitchen knife, honestly. I love that Roswell just has vials of acid. He's like the support rogue of the party. He just has strange objects. It's a surreal scene. You could definitely sell this with the right tone balance to be really grim, because they're essentially like going child soldier mode. It's like
Yeah.
Home Alone, but people are going to literally be killed. But I'm also just having, it's also just a lot to reconcile this page being, this sentence is the most proactive anyone's been in all of Password. Just an arsenal of weapons. They're all like, they did less when they spent 3 days planning the ending in Beat Route. It wasn't much, but it was all we had to take down someone that conventional weaponry just wouldn't work against. We're all so sure of somehow. This is another thing. Is like, it's like, oh, we can't do the road. It's impossible because Orlando or something. Oh, we can't go that way. This thing reason. Oh, this thing, blah, blah, blah. Everyone always knows the plot somehow without scenes establishing the plot. We have almost no reason to think that Memphis can't be affected by any kind of weaponry. And in fact, showing that would be an interesting escalation in a scene if someone did try to harm him and it didn't work. But even having like just like some more like vague but unconfirmed stuff about like how like Orlando has seen just like horrible things happen would be more to go on. But without much of an anecdote or a story or ideally an actual drama-filled scene that raises the stakes in which things happen, everyone just kind of universally accepts that there's just a gang boss out there that's immune to all weaponry, like Captain America, which is a lot.
Yes.
It ended up with a hunting knife, a third knife, and Benson has his own gun. Why is every knife unique and every gun is gun 3 times? I love observing something and then having it pay off as being even more true than I ever anticipated. So we'd apparently swapped out the bullets. What does that mean?
But
It's only let Thanatos had his own gun. Or Benson has his own gun. They'd apparently swapped out the bullets.
Oh, yeah, I have no idea what the fuck that means.
And then he just moves on. That's the end of that thought. With what? Poison bullets? Armor piercing bullets? Why do you know he swapped out the bullets? How do you recognize that about a thing he did, but not have any further insight? Guy who doesn't know guns to begin with. This only left Thanatos, who seemed to be standing on the steps, lost in thought. I would say who is standing on the steps, seemingly lost in thought, but I appreciate that he's seemingly standing on the steps, which implies ambiguity of his relationship with the steps. Thanatos, are you right? Are you all right?
Maybe.
Only maybe?
This could very well be the last time we talk. Once we leave the threshold of the backyard, well, I won't know what's happening. Did Thanatos' name color change? Have I talked about this before?
I think this is normal. It's got a weird color to begin with, but I think this is what it's been.
Yeah.
There's
It matches his eye color, I think.
Yeah, I think a lot of the names are eye dropped from somewhere, I think.
Yeah.
Although I don't think Dave's name matches his jacket. He's just yellow-ish. Gold yellowish. What if everything goes well and we come back?
I'm going to be off, remember?
Oh, right. He wandered up the arm of Roswell when it was offered to him, shaking his head.
So this is it then? This is the last thing I can do for you all. After I turn myself off, the only code that will work in the door downstairs is the one to actually open it. And you're gonna tell us the code? If you figure it out, that's entirely on you. Otherwise, no.
Well, thanks, Thanatos.
Wait, that sentence doesn't make sense. You're going to tell us the code. If you figure it out, that's entirely on you. He should have said, it's entirely on you to figure that out.
Yeah, he said it weird. Almost like, if you figured out, that's your mistake or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thanks, Thanatos. You've been profoundly unhelpful and miserable to be around, and you actively antagonize me, and you pretend that you pretend this is your voice.
Four.
Helping? Kind of? Thanks, Dave. Thanks for speaking.
I guess I'll take that.
He looked at Roswell, holding on to one of his tusks.
Roswell, good luck. Be safe.
Before I could call him out on his voice being different, he went limp and fell into Roswell's ready hands. Oh, he said that.
I'm imagining him popping like an Oblivion NPC and just ragdolling.
just the strings are cut and he immediately just ragdolls.
Thanatos.
Most of the scenes in this game would be improved by somebody ragdolling.
I don't like how he just pivoted into another voice randomly there when talking only to you, Roswell. What a stupid character trait. It doesn't make any sense. So stupid.
Characters don't really develop in Password, but they do just change suddenly.
They're like a Katamari that just picks up new character traits, and suddenly it's like part of the shape of them, and that's like, it.
4 years into the updates, Password update 72, Thanatos suddenly has been faking the voice the whole time.
The whole time, exactly, yeah.
It's just, and now you won't stop hearing about it after a whole game of it never coming up, because it's like, this is the update where it's the running gag or something.
Yeah.
Just a weird part of the narrative to add running gags once again.
I don't know how far. We're going to find out that we're 20% of the way through the story.
Well, probably. Don't worry, just Toaster. It gets good.
That's a threat. I'll be right back. My doorbell just rang.
Something you keeping from us?
This isn't really the time, but I like to think Thanatos and I were friends. Friends enough that even with everything going on, he was looking out for us. Or me, anyway.
That's not addressing what he said. I guess with him offline, there's not exactly much we can do to ask him about it, huh? Just for literal years, never thought to ask if we were friends. Now I'll never know.
But then there's that other thing, opening the door to the vault itself.
Don't look at me. I have no idea what it could be. Don't look at me either.
Opening at this point doesn't feel like it's going to get us anything new, or so you know. I have some guesses I'd like to try, but we have something more important to deal with.
Something more important than the magic thing that shows you the future and lets you cheat at the death game. But I gotta hold this funny knife. Saving Teen.
And Oswin. It's worth raising that this isn't going to be some leisurely walk in the woods. It is going to be incredibly dangerous, and there's no guarantee that any one of us is going to come out of this unscathed.
Benson straightened, looking at us each in turn.
Now, if there's any of you that wish to remain behind, as is the reasonable expectation, now is the time.
None of us moved at first, looking at one another through the looks we... Come on, man. Looking at one another through the looks we shared, or worry and fear. Oh, it's though, not through. It's less insane than I thought it was. I just choked on that. Looking at one another, comma, though the looks we shared were of worry and fear and hunger and termina. But I stepped forward all the same, shifting uncomfortably on my feet. Dean is a close friend of mine, and important to all of us, so... I looked at my friends for visual confirmation, but no one except Sal was enthusiastically nodding. Knowing that Dean is based on someone that Grizz dated and so on, and that whole extended thing of like shipping his own character with him and everything. It does like color the fact that Dean is the character you have to date no matter what route you're in, and also he's the guy you have to save at the beginning of the true end, at the end of the true ending and everything. Like he weirdly becomes the main side character despite not being in the story for the last 20 days. Very strange. I don't remember I read that now, who cares? So I want to go. There were murmurs of agreement soon after, Benson looking directly to me.
Very well, Dave. I make no promises, but I shall try to keep you all alive.
Don't worry. I don't think any of us wants to end up dead.
We'll be careful. We have to be.
We set off, and for the first time I could remember, we were all heading into the woods as a single group. Has it never happened? You guys had a terrible vacation. You just never went into the woods that you were staying in on your group vacation. Like, remember, that's the premise of the game? And they just didn't. They were never like, let's go on a walk to the river. We're going hiking. Yay. They didn't have a single fucking TJ in their group. The fools. Vague flashes through my head were of memories where some of us were out here, some at various other spots doing things, but never like this. Cool vamp, bro. Even some where Dean was with us, which gave me additional pangs of worry the longer I dwelled on the fact that he was not here with us now. When were you here with Dean? You can't just retcon experiences in the narrative when we were like, we had to sit through it all in excruciating real-time detail when there was no gaps for activities to have happened. You never went in the woods with Dean.
Dave.
I slowed down slightly to let Roswell catch up, understanding that while his voice was low, everyone turned briefly to see if anything was wrong.
I'm sorry.
He kept his voice low, occasionally looking about the woods.
Maybe I should have tried harder or been less stubborn or I don't know.
It's not like you're the only one. It's partially my fault Dean has been locked up in the watermill overnight.
Given the circumstances, would anyone have made a better choice? I don't think so.
I could see Roswell holding Thanatos carefully, and looked back to the others who seemed to be following Benson almost single file ahead of us. So he's really gone? Roswell nodded slightly, clutching him closer to his chest. Even though Thanatos' eyes were half closed, he looked no different to how he was normally, further proof that he was never really alive to begin with. That's strangely definitive language to use that, like, crushes any emotional weight to this. If you're like, oh, he was never really alive, fuck it.
You have Tyson. I've had Thanatos, so... My rat boyfriend.
That's seemingly an implication. Like, I know that... the pitfalls that happen when you try to write one route that has every romance in it, especially since the romances all just ended at some point, is that the story now forgot that we're boyfriends with Tyson, so he went back to saying brother on a regular basis, and now he's comparing our relationship with Thanatos, his relationship with Thanatos to ours with Tyson, not knowing that we're in the specific route where the two of us are fucking.
Yeah.
Which it's like, oh, it's like your brother Tyson. I'm like, uh I also think somehow Thanatos crossed fewer boundaries. But this is also just weird because it's like they might lose Thanatos in the ensuing trade or whatever, but him being turned off, it doesn't sound significant because as far as we could tell, he could get turned on and off anyway. And otherwise, he's just outside of the range of the transmission. So it's like he's not really dead, but the story is treating him like he's dead now. Weird. He sighed, putting Thanatos in his pocket.
I have a theory about what he was trying to say right before he shut down.
Why do you have a theory? He was talking very directly to you. What? There's nothing to theorize about. He said you need to learn the password and that if all goes according to plan, this will be the last time you talk. There was nothing suspicious about this.
He's trying to refer to like the one lowercase line. Good luck, be safe. Okay, that's not...
No.
That's not cryptic at all.
No, literally.
What? Unless he means the password line.
But even then, he was just like, you need to find the password, Roswell. I'm not going to tell you what it is. Like, whatever. There's nothing cryptic there either. There's no hint in that.
What, about wishing you good luck?
About opening the vault door, as if he knew that I knew what to put in.
Is that what it implied? Because it didn't...
Didn't feel like it did, no.
No,
And do you know?
Like I said before, I have hunches, but like, nothing concrete. Nothing I can test out here, either.
I see.
When we get back, I suppose we can try them out, right?
Yes, that is what was implied by the idea of putting passwords into the vault that was set up last scene. We do not need to go over this.
When we get back? I looked at the rest of the group ahead of us, worried. Roswell put his hand on my arm, breathing in deep.
We'll get back. Just you watch.
I think Roswell is an insufferable character. He's a crime against me, specifically.
I mean, definitely at this point. He's harmed you. Our continued march was in silence for the most part. Benson seemed to know which way to go, though it all looked, for the most part, the same. The most part. It genuinely feels like a bit to target me specifically how frequently the two-sentence pages have the same phrase. Like, you would think it was like an artistic choice at some point, but I can't justify it in any way, so I don't think that it is. Each little sound, each shadow made me more worried that we were about to be jumped, but it never came. Instead came the sudden halt of Benson leading the way, causing us all to freeze. Hi. Benson wasted no time firing off a show. Come on, man. Benson wasted no time in firing off a show, loud enough that I could hear it, but it didn't seem to echo out into the woods. Why would it not echo? He deliberately missed, though, as Jack only seemed to half duck out of the way and seemed unharmed. What a... Oh, man. What a disaster. That whole page. Shot versus show typo. Seemed happens 3 times. Just strange conveyance of flow. Just, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's not very nice.
Fast, why are you here?
Can you talk? Talking fast. About? These characters interacting is weird. You guys seen Dom around? He left this morning and never came back. Fuck off. We have more important things to worry about. Benson held up his hand, confused.
Dominic never returned. You didn't run into him on the way here?
Could I have? I don't fucking know. Tyson, he's not talking to you. You're doing that thing that I hate where a third person responds to things like, how should I know and stuff, when no one's talking to you.
If I may ask, who is looking over Oswin at this moment?
He's tied up, but he's not going anywhere. Not with his injury, anyway.
Explain.
Yeah, he seemed to kick up a fuss after I can't do the talk fast bit anymore. Damn it. Yeah, he seemed to kick up a fuss after Dom had to take your friend over to the watermill. The boss shot him in the leg and then left to swap places with Dom. What? The boss shot Oswin in the leg, then swapped him with Dom, I guess.
But he's alive. Dominic neglected to mention any sort of injury.
Alive enough? No idea about your friend, though. Can I ask something? Just, if we're not gonna get stabbed? Well, if you want a bit of stabbing. I watched as Tyson went to shoot Jack the moment the knife came out, but Benson beat him to it, shooting the knife out of his hand instead. He has this level of precision, how has he ever not just killed Jack? Killjoy. Why did you want to know if Dom was alright? Because he's my buddy. Just a buddy? Yeah. What are you insinuating? How does everyone become universally aware that these characters are gay without interacting with them?
And you two are romantically involved, I believe.
It's a good point.
Just, particularly, it happened really strongly in Route B based on nothing, whereas in Route A, half of the human race would see Dave's perspective of Jack and Dom and in the getting time alone in the house and think, oh, they're fucking. But no one else saw that, and I don't know if Dave remembers that because that was 2 timelines ago. Oh, is that what you want to know? What's Dom been telling you? Well, he kind of cut us a deal. We leave you two out of what we're going to do while we get our friend, and you leave us alone. But that's boring. He could have cleared that with me first.
We're gonna spend this incredibly plot critical moment going over information we already know to set up for a dumb bit.
But also just to try to, like, we established story-wide villains, the 2 people that are on either side of Memphis, and then they're just gonna, like, what? Are they implying they're just gonna sit out the climax when it's actually time to in any way interact with them? Like, they just waited all game for this to happen so they could opt out of the story. Okay. Like, Jack exists exclusively for the scene where he chases Dave out of the woods that one time, and Dom exists exclusively to facilitate the entire deal that happened because they needed to retcon another character into the story because Jack is too insane and useless to be the mediator, so they had to make a new character for that. And then they made them gay for each other to write them both out of the story. Now that they're not doing their one purpose anymore, they literally both had one thing to do. Great.
Am I to believe you're not going to honor that arrangement? Believe me, I have no qualms in defending myself should you put yourself in the way.
Well, I'm not going to agree to any deal I wasn't a part of without clearing it with Dom or the boss first. You'll get 2 very different answers there. Tyson lined up his gun again, threatening to shoot. What? Gonna try to shoot me again? I see you're using the universal "I'm gonna shoot you with this gun" gesture. I'll have you know I have another knife ready to go. It's in my sprite. Once again, Benson shot the knife out of his hand, grunting.
Are we going to keep running into this problem, or shall we be on our way?
You think all these gunshots in the woods would be an audio problem, like an audible problem for the other people that can hear it happening? I have more than just 2 knives, but I get your point. If the boss finds out I'm all the way out here rather than watching your boss, I'm gonna get it.
Fine by me.
What, so we're just gonna let him go after all?
Yes.
Why?
Because as much as I dislike Oswin being taken care of off by this one and his compatriot, what? Because as much as I dislike Oswin being taken care of by this one and his compatriot, by comparison, it is much better than leaving him alone with a homicidal maniac.
I can try harder if you like. I'm a cartoon character. Don't you care so much more about the stakes now that we're doing anime knife shooting? Shut the fuck up. Make me.
Jack, answer me this. Would you rather waste time here or find Dominic? We need to waste more time here so that we can meet the word count requirement of this update. Furthermore, would you rather waste time here and run the risk of dealing with Memphis later, or avoid that by leaving now?
Jack took a step back, frowning for a few moments and thought. Fine, but this isn't over.
Yes, it is. Now run along. We have an appointment with your boss.
Benson gestured at the knives laying on the soil, and Jack reluctantly backed up enough to pick them up, keeping his eyes mainly on Tyson. It's your funeral, but if you see Dom, tell him I was looking for him. He shot us all one foul squint before dashing off into the woods.
There, hoss.
Your character trait is you're afraid of guns. Have you seen Puss in Boots: The Last Wish? It was such a realistic portrayal of a panic attack.
I'm alright, I promise.
Are you sure?
He's trembling.
Sal had his hands carefully on Haas's shoulders when I turned to look, easing them away carefully.
It's only a gunshot, that's all.
Apologies, the situation did warrant it.
I know.
Are you going to be alright knowing that, you know, Tyson has a gun too?
As harsh as this may come across, he doesn't have a choice. Memphis isn't going to care when it
Oops.
comes to firing his gun either.
That reflex that ruins Final Fantasy cutscenes sometimes, where I reflexively press A when I hear a pause.
This indeed is true. Perhaps it might be best if Haas does sit out.
Alone? That seems like an even worse idea.
I'm gonna agree with Dave. Even sending me off to go see if Oswin is alright would be better, but I'm not volunteering for that either.
Well, maybe it'd be best if we lingered at the back.
With the revised walking order, we continued on. My mind was on Dean, though, hoping he was alright and wondering just what had driven Jack out here. He'd left Osmond alone, too, but there was a big risk he was taking if Memphis found out. Not that I had a chance to consider it for too long. The watermill soon came into view, and we all froze behind the trees looking onward. Somewhere in there was Memphis, along with Dean, as well as our way out.
Now, everyone, there is no telling what is going to happen inside. Nothing good, I assure you. But should anyone wish to turn back now or wait here?
He looked at each of us in turn, and when none of us budged, he nodded slowly.
Everyone stay quiet and as calm as you can be given the circumstances.
We approached slowly, Benson leading us on, Roswell right behind him as we had Thanatos to pass over. I wondered when we'd hear something, anything to indicate that either Memphis or Dean was in fact in here somewhere, but in the dark I just had to have faith that something would show soon. Big dragon. I think that's an indication that he's here. He was waiting for us as we descended the stairs, just sitting there on some old machinery. The moment he'd spotted us, he discarded a cigar that he'd been smoking in a dark corner. Not a great location for smoking. A basement.
Brought everyone along, did ya?
His hand lingered over his gun sitting next to him, showing he meant business.
Hand over what I want, and this doesn't have to get ugly.
Roswell stepped forward slowly and held out Thanatos, setting him on something for Memphis to see, and scurried back behind Benson.
You brought me a stinking rat. That's the best you can do.
That's... that the vault. The time machine you wanted, or, I stopped talking as Benson shot me a stern look, though his attention was drawn back to Memphis chuckling.
You know, you'd think a job like this would be easy. Take a guy hostage, random him off for something.
No!
Get paid double what you get to watch the fear in someone's eyes as they part with something they don't want to.
There's a typo on almost every page now. That's incredible. But they're all, like, technically words, so they don't come up on a word search. That's the level of proofreading. Or they don't come up on spell check.
That's always the best part, getting to watch that very moment they have the hope taken from them when I threaten to put a bullet between their eyes soon after.
He rolled his shoulders, placing his foot on a nearby crate and eyeing us carefully.
I like truly, this is unrelated, but I'm not going to go off on a super long tangent, but the idea that Memphis would, one, intimidate anyone, and two, become a mob boss like this, like, he shows absolutely zero leadership qualities, has no plans, is just dumb. Like, the idea that he would somehow be the master of, like, this evil crime syndicate is just utterly unfathomable, and the only logic behind it is just that he's really hard to kill, which...
No, like, it just, literally, this game exists in the Yakuza universe. Where every single... It does.
I refuse. I refuse. I feel like Yakuza...
It's that level of absurdity where every single leader of every single family is the toughest guy. He has 7 health bars, and Kiryu has to punch his way through the whole organization so he could then punch the leader guy, who is a boss, and he has to fight him for like 10 minutes straight. And that's the reason why he's the ultimate guy that everyone keeps wanting to make the chairman of the Tojo clan, is because he's the punchiest man of them all.
Sure.
With zero leadership qualities, and he's really stupid.
One of the things about Yakuza is that, like, despite all of that, that's absolutely true. There is, like, a logical consistency to the world, and even for all of the truth behind I am the punchiest dude, therefore I'm the king of the Yakuza, they do have plans and conspiracies that are functional. Like, there is intrigue in the Yakuza games.
Oh yeah, that's the primary thing it tries to do. I don't know if it always works, but it is a written franchise written by writers.
Yeah, like, I guess what I'm saying is, like, the premise of the Yakuza games is not the Yakuza show up and then just go like, this bank is now mine because I beat you up. It's like, we did 27 years of real estate to make it so that now you have to listen to us. Like, that's like literally the plot of Yakuza 0 is about
the empty lot.
tiny little empty lot. Like that, and like the years of work it took to get this one tiny piece of real estate. Whereas this is literally just like, I'm a big dragon and I'm gonna kill you. I'm stupid. Like, that's it. That's his whole character.
That was even Zero being a pretty decent prequel too, because I didn't know this at the time, but everyone who actually knew Yakuza already knew that like the empty lot was in the center of the location that was palpably missing the Millennium Tower, the most important building in the franchise. So like the really, really important building that is in every other game was supposed to be there, and it hasn't been built yet because it's a prequel. And so it's all the more like, oh right, things are connected between games, and there's like they're doing a thing. You can tell what the game is doing. It has like a goal. But no, yeah, Memphis is just an insane character. And for as much as he's a idiot, do nothing man who punches and doesn't take bullets and stuff, he's still willing to just wait around for like a month, just in the dust and woods. Just what is this patience that he's not written to have, but he by nature of the story has to have for any of the story to happen? Like, it doesn't make any sense. I have no idea why he didn't just storm the place immediately if he had the power to all along. Because he does not develop a plan. He just eventually walks in and kills everyone. It's like, okay, do that on day 3. Who cares? Or why did you do that years ago? Because you've known about the vault the whole time. Because it still doesn't justify why his attack randomly happens during Dave's vacation either. Like, the game literally threw up its hands and was like, oh, it's a coincidence. Like last episode. It's like, oh, I guess they're not related. I'm like, what do you mean? How would these things happen at the same time? It's insane.
Here I am thinking I'll dupe that bear you sent out here with the promise of escaping. He followed me in here like a stooge. You come and rescue him and trade what, a rat for him? Very funny. Thing is, I'm not in a joking mood. Done playing games, done listening to Dom wanting me to hold off.
Kick the crate open, and what rolled out were sticks of dynamite. Or if not dynamite, they looked enough like explosives to play the part.
Just don't expect me to play along.
He picked up his gun, and before he'd even placed a single digit on it, Benson... What? And before he placed even a single digit on it, Benson had his out and fired off a shot. How do you pick up a gun without having a single digit on it?
I think he means put his finger on the trigger, but yes, you are correct. Yeah, it is insane.
Like, the digits are how you picked up the gun.
Secure, Dean. Go!
They really just stopped using different colors and gave like 4 characters red. Benson's next shot wasn't at Memphis, but rather the explosives nearby. Not that he connected, though probably for our sake. What? What did what? Just writing action is supposed to be like kind of, you know, it has to be clear and flow because it's supposed to be exciting. You're not supposed to sit here like second and triple guessing every action that happened, just interpreting what you're even reading. Because then they're like, I don't even know what do you mean his next shot wasn't at Memphis but was at the explosives, but it didn't shoot the explosives because he's not shooting the explosives for our sake. So he's intentionally shooting at the explosives, but he's intentionally not shooting the explosives in the same sentence. And I'm like, what are you talking about? What? And he was smoking next to explosives? There's just explosives? We took cover as Memphis bellowed and started to unload in Benson's direction, missing as he jumped behind a large machine and kept going while we headed in the opposite direction. He jumped behind a large machine and kept going? Strange way to say that. While Benson and Memphis seemed to duke it out, gunfire echoing all around us. Once again, seemed unnecessary weakening of language when they're literally fighting with guns. There's not ambiguity that they're fighting, but also duke it out isn't the word you use for shooting people. It's for, you know, putting up your dukes. You punch when you duke it out. You don't shoot. So they're not
Correct.
duking it out. They actually are not seeming to duke it out because nothing they're doing resembles duking it out. But also, don't use seemed about people just explicitly loudly
Actually
fighting
doing
each
something.
other.
Yeah.
People debate whether or not I'm right to complain about wandered. Seemed is wrong. I'm right about this one. But yeah, just stop using weak language all the time for no reason. Gunfire echoed all around us. We desperately searched for Dean. We tried calling out, but his lack of response was explained away the moment we found him. Haas huddled in the corner of the small room we found Dean in, covering his ears from all the gunfire around us. Sal and Tyson tried to get the ropes holding Dean in place free, using Haas's discarded knife to make the job easier. Okay, another about flowing action. Fucking, I'm gonna be a novice fiction editor here. We tried to call out, but his lack of response was explained when we found him. Next page. No explanation of why he's silent. That should be the next thought. You're observing right now why he's silent, but then you just don't explain it. Is he unconscious? Is he gagged? Is he dead? He took a big gulp of air, looking around quickly. Okay, so we don't get an answer. It just became clear to them, and they would like us to know that it was clear to them, but they're not gonna say what was clear. God damn it. Everyone's here? What's happening? We came to rescue you. Thanks, Dave. Sal grabbed him by the wrist and led the way out. Tyson grabbing Haas, and we made a break for it. What? Though we didn't get far. The ground beneath us started to shake, and before us, we saw parts of the ceiling above start to fall. From above, a section fell. Uh-huh! Parts of the ceiling... Before us, we saw parts of the ceiling start to fall. From above, a section fell down. And with it was Benson and Memphis. God damn. From where I didn't even realize they went down under Memphis and Benson. Was that clear to you? I didn't realize that...
Repeat that, you fuzzed out. What?
I didn't realize that Benson and Memphis were above them.
Oh, I didn't know either. I thought they were all standing in the room.
I thought they were on the same floor. I thought they went to the next room. They went down? How are Benson and Memphis going through the floor? What? This is just as bad as the last action scene and the other ending. It's just he cannot do it. He can't write an action scene. From where we stood, Memphis seemed to have landed better than Benson, almost like he's invulnerable or something, dusting himself off and slowly walking closer as if relishing what he's about to do. How'd they fall through the floor? They were shooting at each other. That's when I saw Roswell and Tyson step forward, though Roswell was a little quicker.
Hey.
I looked to Roswell, saying Memphis look up our way. You already said you saw Roswell move forward, so you don't need to look to him, but then you say you look to him, and while you're looking at Roswell, you see Memphis look our way. But you're looking at Roswell, not Memphis, and they're in different directions. It's just...
Don't touch him, asshole!
Roswell threw something at Memphis, a vial of something. Of something?! We spent so long establishing what was in the vial! What do you mean, a vial of something? Did you forget? But it was swiped out of the air effortlessly. Though through his cocky grin, Memphis crushed it with his hand, a mistake he'd soon realize he'd made. No. You mean like the thing he soon realized was a mistake? Is how you'd write that. He roared in pain as the acid in the vial started to eat away at his hand, giving Benson a shot to put some distance between them. In the throes of pain, Memphis knocked over an old lever. One that turned on a conveyor belt in that very room. This room is powered, apparently. Tyson's... Powered from where? By what? Tyson, seeing his chance, fired his gun, landing a shot right in his chest, but the bullet bounced off. If anything, it distracted Memphis from the pain happening on his hand, and he returned fire immediately. The groan from the conveyor belt starting up was all I could register as I watched Tyson crumple next to me, holding his middle and then falling to the floor. I looked back to Memphis, who had now set his sights on Roswell, marching forward with purpose. It was Orlando, having stepped up and huffed a blast of fire at his dad, distracting him. What? There's a missing sentence here or something. It just says it was Orlando. Okay. The best I can think is they thought that it was acceptable to say it was Orlando in response to the sound effect of an explosion, but it wasn't a written... That doesn't work. You have to write the explosion that was played by the sound. You can't substitute writing for... You can't use visual novel special effects to substitute for writing. It doesn't flow. Leave them alone! Especially if they're playing on mute. Like, I don't think Toaster can hear that.
Yeah, I'm on mute, so I can't hear it.
Good time to grow a pair, kid. Hey, that's mean.
Sal, punch him in the head.
Yeah, Sal, knock him out. You knock people out
Knock
when
him out.
they for some reason when they mention Orlando's balls, which we've never gotten closure for. We still don't really
Chekhov's
understand.
Punch.
I remember when I respected this game enough to try to interpret that scene and why he acted that way, but it was just noise. It was just nonsense. I think the explanation I got was that that's just more akin to how people settle their differences in Australia, and I'm like, I don't think I can accept that answer. I caught the sight of Roswell lobbing another vial of acid towards Memphis, though this one was caught and quickly discarded over his shoulder, with his attention now away from his son. Both of us stepped back, but Memphis was quicker, knocking me aside and grabbing Roswell by the scruff. The primed vial of acid was knocked from his hand.
Cute trick. Been a while since someone hurt me.
As if Roswell weighed nothing, Memphis threw him just enough to adjust his grip around Roswell's throat.
You look like Oswin's pissing me. You looking like Oswin is pissing me off, though.
Another thunderous roar echoed from nearby, but this time it came from Sal, charging forward and crashing into Memphis. With his bulk and the sudden tackle, Roswell was dropped, and Sal ended up on the conveyor belt with Memphis. Roswell was struggling to catch his breath, though my attention went from helping him to watching out for Sal after only moments. I managed to catch the pair of them, Sal and Memphis, disappearing through a chute and out of sight. It's very funny of Memphis to just stand in the one room that can kill him, and then the room will kill him like he's a Zelda boss. He just wandered over to the one location where he can get killed by the room. Benson had picked himself up by this point and sped along the conveyor belt down the chute as well, gun in hand. I'm going too. Okay. Rather than taking the conveyor belt, Dean picked up the only thing he saw that resembled a weapon and disappeared down a corridor. This doesn't seem like a location that has corridors. In the moment of silence I was given, I looked to Tyson bleeding on the floor of the mill, twitching and groaning. Haas rushed over and was already pulling off his shirt to have something to mop up the blood. Don't mop up the blood like you're cleaning him. You need to put pressure on the wound. Those words are not similar. Mopping up the blood implies that he's dabbing it, like somebody politely dabbing their mouth with a napkin after a meal. He gave me a look that told me that he had things handled as best he could here, and with that I followed the others in Dean's wake. The next floor down was darker still, more dusty, but the groaning conveyor belt filled the silence. What we saw upon reaching the floor below was Sal pinned underneath Memphis, about to be roasted point blank by the fire already welling inside Memphis's chest. Dean took a couple steps forward and threw the sword he was carrying, not as if he had anything else to use, but it was at least connected with Memphis's side. What an unnecessary aside to put in there. I didn't have anything else, but I guess I'll have to settle for a sword. What a weird improvised weapon. The distraction was enough for Sal to reverse the grip, though. The two were groaning and roaring. I don't love the word groaning in this context. Still on the conveyor belt, somehow traveling down its length.
Up.
We took a few
Discord
steps.
is not happy right now.
No, it's not accepting your words at all.
Yeah. The video stream is being weird right now. I'm gonna stop watching and rejoin. Give me a second.
Well, anyway, he went, help. As you would imagine.
All right. Let's see if this is better.
Will it survive? Nope. We took a few steps closer before it looked like Sal had already dealt with... We took a few steps closer before it looked like Sal had already dealt with the problem, pinning Memphis on his front, mouth clamped shut. With no gun and no mouth to breathe fire, I turned to the person next to me with a hopeful smile. I'm really struggling with how he doesn't understand how sentences flow or how phrases lead into each other. This sentence implies that Dave has no gun and no mouth to breathe fire. That's what that grammatically means, to write that sentence that way. And also, we took a few steps closer before it looked like Sal had already dealt with the problem. One, you haven't dealt with the problem. Memphis is still an invulnerable monster man that could probably kill people with his bare hands. But also, the first part of that sentence just doesn't lead into the rest of the sentence. It's just, what the fuck are you saying? What I saw was Roswell staring at me, hand sitting on another lever. I didn't have time to read the sign above it before he threw it, and the sound of sharp whirring added to the mix of groans from the conveyor belt. I'm very amused by how all the language has to be explained. That it's coming, that great pains are being spent establishing that this is all from Dave's perspective. Like, we can't be trusted to just understand that Dave is the POV character 100 hours into the story. So everything keeps getting explained as Dave seeing stuff unnecessarily. But it also means that, like, amusingly, Dave has to abandon his bleeding brother boyfriend who's dying, and he could reasonably help in some way by, like, being there for him and trying to tend to the wound or pushing pressure on it and just basic movie stuff. But the most passive character in the entire narrative has to go running into the fray because he has to watch everything happen. So, which didn't have to be as confusing because it could have just happened in front of him, but they specifically set up a massive reason for him to not be here, and he had to leave that scene to continue being in the fray he's not going to interact with, as he just watches everybody else be proactive and just gawks at everything. The sound of sharp whirring added to the mix of groans from the conveyor belt. So the people are groaning and the conveyor belt is groaning. Everything's groaning. We all found ourselves looking down to the end of the conveyor belt. A large series of saw blades now alive and spinning viciously. Memphis and Sal noticed too as their struggle resumed, with Memphis now thrashing even harder. I was torn. I wanted to go help Sal, but without anything to offer in assistance, I felt like I'd get in the way. The sword was gone. I wasn't given a gun, and the knife I had wasn't going to cut through his scales if I could bring myself to do it. If only dragons had, like, a famously unscaled part of the body that was extremely vulnerable on all living creatures or something. The snake in Sekiro was invulnerable until the wolf put a katana in its eye, and then it looked really in pain. That's the most in pain thing I've seen in a video game ever, is the Sekiro snake when it got a sword in the eye. It was rough to watch, and I hated that stupid snake at that point. You're like, fuck this thing. We watched as Sal was discarded over one side of the conveyor belt while Memphis rolled off the side closest to us. I'm glad that no one helped. Everyone just watched. We all found ourselves watching the obvious way to kill Memphis, and then no one took any action, including the bear or any large character. As far as I know, Dean has done nothing since he threw the sword earlier. He just vanished from the scene. This is all written like the scene at the end of Suicide Squad, or the one at the end of Bright, where in both those movies, just everyone stands still and doesn't act like they're trying to beat the one person that's going to kill everyone. The gun Sal had on him clattered to the ground and was picked up casually by Memphis. Cool. I'm glad we gave Sal a gun for him to not use, because it was a Chekhov's gun to give Memphis a gun later.
As much of a disappointment as that fat fuck my dad liked so much.
Talking about Orlando?
I don't even know. Who the fuck is Memphis's dad?
I think Orlando was raised by his grandparents.
Oh, yeah. That's probably what he's going for. He dusted off his shoulders, rolling his neck. I mean, that's just objectively wrong. Sal is obviously more of a psycho than Orlando. He wants to be a cop, and he almost killed you.
Shame, Sal. Thought you had it in you to take me down, but I guess I was wrong.
It's really weird how the game just drops on you the idea that Memphis was supposedly in the background trying to recruit Sal or something. I don't know. I guess we'll get to that when we read Sal's route. His eyes were set on Roswell, raising his gun almost painfully slow to point directly at him. So why are you emphasizing how much time everyone has to react and no one's doing anything? It happened so fast. Benson rushing out of the dark and throwing himself in front of Roswell. He said nothing, just holding him close before eventually... You can't say it happened so fast when you just talked about how painfully slowly and telegraphed the attack was that no one was reacting to and Roswell wasn't avoiding. Like, Benson's the one person who reacted. It wasn't fast. He fell limp to the ground, bleeding out at Roswell's feet. Sal had risen up, and brandishing the sword, struck Memphis. Like before, though, it did little else other than annoy him, even breaking on impact against his horns. It just snapped. Okay. Sal can swing a sword hard enough to break it, apparently. Orlando and people forget that about, like, when people swing a sword and it shatters, you're like, that implies the person swinging it can break a sword. Orlando and Roswell were trying to help a dying Benson, stammering and wondering what to do when I noticed another vial of acid next to my foot. I picked it up and looked at Dean, who was watching in horror as Sal found himself about to be torched again. Dean has not moved for 5 minutes. Time slowed down to a crawl. I hear Benson dying at my feet. You said that already. I could see Sal already throwing up arms and trying to shield himself against the flames. I could smell the blood that had been spilled already, everything making me feel sick. As I held the vial in my hand, everything seemed to move so fast in my head. And without thinking... You just said everything's moving in slow motion. You can't just keep saying both speeds over and over again in the same thought. Ugh. And without thinking about it too much more, I threw it. I threw the vial in a shallow arc towards Memphis, not really knowing what to expect. Hey, Memphis! He turned just enough to see who had yelled, right as the vial smashed against his horn. The contents of the acid splashed across his face, his eyes, and he roared with pain and stumbled. His eye is a weak point after all. Forgetting about Sal for a moment, he stumbled and threatened to breathe fire to keep people away. Sal wasn't clear of the line of fire, but that's when Dean made his move. Finally, rushing forward, he shoved Memphis out of the way. How do you shove Memphis out of the way? Of what? He's not in the path of anything. Get down, Mr. President, he says to the shooter. But what none of us expected, though, maybe even including Dean, was that shoving Memphis... But what none of us expected, though, maybe even including Dean, was that shoving Memphis as he did threw him right into the path of the saw blade. How could you not know? Just basic directions. I could see Dean's eyes go wide, mouth hanging open as he watched Memphis come into contact with the saw. Another typo. His roars echoed around us, blade caught in the muscles of his back and grinding deep into his neck. His blood misted upwards, but we all stepped back and watched it happen, and then eventually all was quiet. He didn't move. None of us did. He didn't speak. and even as we looked to one another slowly, we dared not say anything just in case it was inviting him to say something too. The saw blade continued digging in deep into Memphis's torso until it seemed to sputter out and die somewhere in the middle of his chest. If he'd somehow survived that, he had nothing left to hope for. Sal was the first one to move, looking our way and stumbling over, looking a bit pale. He dropped down next to Roswell and Orlando, looking down on Benson, who looked... Stop saying it! It's 4 looks! Who looked on the edge of unconsciousness along with being covered in his own blood. There's no grace. There's no evocative descriptions. There's no metaphor. There's no fun ways of describing things. It's just a basic recap of the bullet points of what's happening. He's covered in blood. He's unconscious. I looked at that. He looked at that. That guy looked at that. He looked at that. He looked at that. He still has a gun wound.
Oswin, my boy.
Oh, edge of unconsciousness. I was like, how's he speaking? He was looking right at Roswell, blind to the rest of us here.
Listen to me. I fear I don't have much time left.
Benson,
Sal put a hand on Roswell's shoulder, giving him a grave look, but it's enough to silence him.
I love you like a son, my boy. Even after all the grief and strife, the suffering and the pain.
He wheezed, struggling for Roswell's hand, and gripped it tight once he'd found purchase.
But that boy will need you now, more than ever, so don't.
Roswell looked to be on the verge of tears, slowly shaking his head as if denying what was happening in front of him.
Don't go abandoning him now, all right?
He mumbled for a few moments before passing out, though after being limply shaken by Roswell, it took Sal to confirm to confirm what we assume had happened. He had died. Yeah, I know. No, I get it. Thanks for explaining that he died in the death scene. You could just say something like, it took Sal... It's very funny saying it took Sal to confirm what we assumed had happened. He had died, because it would be very Sal to be like, he died. That's accurate to his writing, I guess. But I'm just like, it was Sal who confirmed that our worst fears had come to pass, or something like, just anything other than the most literal description. His shirt's off. Hi. I guess he used his shirt on Tyson.
Yeah,
Haas
probably.
appeared soon after, having rushed down the steps nearby from the floor above. Yeah, we know what going down steps is. You don't have to specify that he was from above.
Is it over?
He looked between Roswell, who was openly weeping, Orlando, who was a mess, Sal and Dean huddled together, Benson dead in Roswell's lap, and then over to Memphis, splayed out, half concealed in the darkness. It's dark now? In here? When did it get dark? Yeah, I think so. I stumbled closer to Haas, afraid to ask, but he quickly hugged me, patting my back.
Tyson's all right. Got the bleeding to stop, but I think someone better trained for first aid should look him over.
That's great news. I forced a smile. Even while legitimately happy, it felt wrong to be happy in the wake of someone close to us dying. Benson? Have you even had a meaningful conversation with Benson in this route, considering it's the route that Oz doesn't die in? You don't even really get to bond over that. We left Memphis there, but Sal took the job of carrying Benson up. While we dealt with Memphis, by some miracle, we weren't done yet. Dean was exhausted and needed to rest, as was Orlando, who wanted to proceed to process his dad's death. Haas wanted to look after Tyson just in case, though Tyson was conscious for a little bit before needing to rest. I'm amused that like in every timeline they always become convinced they need to trade Thanatos for some reason, and it just obviously doesn't work at all and makes no sense, and it's disregarded immediately and accomplishes nothing. But in the process, Thanatos basically dies. That's his. It's arguably the most important character in the story because of how oppressive he is, and he dies pointlessly. This left Roswell and I to go find Oswin, to go find the cabin and deliver the bad news. Occasionally I look over to Roswell. Even while he was the one leading the way, it felt like he was following me. Maybe having Benson die in front of him was having more of a toll on him than I thought. I can't believe that this little bitch is having it take a toll on him when somebody dies staring into his eyes, telling that they're the surrogate version of himself to take care of literally him as he also is dying. I'm sure that's nothing to, like, navigate emotionally. It's unexpected, really, from Dave's perspective. Dave, whose entire story arc was about recovering from grief. That's fine. It had shaken all of us, but it seemed to be sticking with Roswell more, almost like he knew him before 2 weeks ago. Are you okay? He didn't respond, just keeping his eyes down on the ground as we trudged forward. Roswell?
I'm not sure. Maybe.
You want to talk about it?
Did you? What's there to talk about?
Just how close were you and Benson anyway?
Not as close as you might think, but he was around a lot. Enough that I didn't really consider a time where he wouldn't be around.
Did you love him?
Huh? Oh, maybe. I don't know. He felt something like a grandpa would, and I knew he was old, so...
He groaned, shaking his head.
This is just the most... I feel like ignoring the like prose issues, like scenes about eating cereal were delivered with more gravitas and like import than this fight scene and character, you know, ostensible death and like stuff like that. Like, this was like 6 lines of dialogue. And like writing to cover the most important conflict that has happened in the game thus far.
So, yeah. Memphis, Thanatos, and Benson just died.
Yeah.
Which, being not love interests, they're most of the characters, because the love interests don't do anything. It's just like, fucking... It's just like, time to go to the final boss fight, might as well bring the harem. And they all just kind of form a RPG party around you and stand there.
I just don't know how I'm going to explain this to Uncle.
There's not going to be a good way of handling it, that's for sure.
I like how Roswell's friends aren't expendable, but Benson, the most competent person, is.
Yeah. It's just...
something a little bit questionable about that.
We spent the rest of the walk in silence, though as we approached the cabin, we were met with a welcoming party. Yeah, this does kind of imply that, like, this is the good ending, and we can just move on with these characters being dead and the save everybody story.
Yeah, yeah. I'll be honest, wasn't expecting to see you two again.
We could hear it from over here. The roaring, anyway. Considering we cannot hear that roaring anymore, should I assume that I'm free to go now?
Not till we're sure.
What's there to be sure about? You think he just let us go to come here? He's got a point. Don't think the boss would turn up a chance to get his hands dirty and then leave the job half finished. All the more reason to suspect that you two are out of a job now. Well, damn. Curse the consequences of my actions.
This ending so far, and I'm sure it's gonna like
so
have
lame.
Yeah, I'm sure Memphis is gonna like walk up and be a, you know, half burnt zombie or something, but like this is delivered with the gravitas of like, and then he went back to his home planet. The end. Like, it's so weird.
It's actively worse than ending B.
Yeah.
Like in ending B, they attack the mansion, which is a payoff of like the looming threat that's been there the entire game. Like the entire game, the mansion has been in the jaws of the beast, waiting for any moment. Like they constantly telling you how something's going to finally happen one day, and it does get attacked, and the mansion gets burned down, and like Jack and Dom fucking die. Everyone's having a horrible time. Fucking, and the only like there's a lot wrong with the ending, but the worst part is obviously that just out of nowhere Memphis dies off camera somehow, and you're like, that's deeply disappointing. But the set piece works better than, oh yeah, we went to that sawmill that no one ever talks about or goes to and doesn't come up much in the story, and it has the kill Memphis button, and we put him in it, which is convenient. Turns out there was a kill Memphis button in the sawmill. Good thing he chose that location to be in. Thanks. I'm glad no one ever had to plan anything. So anyway, here we are now. These characters just sat out the ending after all that.
All right, you can go, Dan.
Did the fans think that they were just too scrumbly scrunklo that they couldn't die? Like, oh, but I love Jack and Dom. You can't kill them in the ending. So they just...
How could literally anyone love these characters?
Because they love the rest of Password, so they just project everything onto a character drawing.
No, just no. I refuse. I'm sorry.
They like the little they like the little yandere psycho and the big quiet gruff man, and they debate which one's the bottom. It's just like Tumblr. Characters need not apply.
I think it would be really fun to bite into the cyanide capsule that I have hidden in my molars right now.
Oh, no.
And just take my out.
It's the only
finally.
escape. Remember to call 998 if you're considering. Dom, buddy, we're just going to trust they're telling the truth.
You don't need to trust they're telling the truth. They created a logical condition and you agreed to it. That's not them. Like,
also,
it doesn't
the
even
entire
matter.
narrative hinges on the fact that the windmills, the watermill's the only way to leave, and they're going there to check on Memphis, so no one can get past them anyway if Memphis is somehow alive, because they're going to be at the only exit according to the narrative that keeps claiming that's the only exit, even though they're definitely about to leave through the road again. I know they will. They definitely will.
Yep.
And if they're not, where does that leave us?
Yeah, for once in your goddamn life, can't things just be easy?
We don't need a satisfying conclusion to this narrative. John took 2 steps necessary to be in range and swatted him roughly across the head, making him stumble.
We're gonna get out of here and just you and me, buddy.
He looked from Oswin to us.
You guys need to move to the house before we leave?
I'll manage, if slow. I'm talking like the narrator. The narrator talks like that. Actually, could you help us bring him to the watermill? Everyone should still be there, I think. May I ask why? I would assume you'd have made for the house again. To leave, you dumb fuck. I looked to Roswell, nudging him forward. His expression said it all, with Dom and Jack backing off slightly. Roswell, what's the matter? He told him, and I thought for a moment he'd break. He was stunned, nodded, and asked if he could be helped to the mill instead. The 5 arguably one of the most emotional scenes you could have in the game, and we're just gonna not have it. We're skipping it. Cool. The 5 of us headed towards the mill, and once we'd arrived, Dom and Jack took their leave, escaping through the mill, or at the very least heading inside. Part of me wondered what they'd think seeing Memphis left there like that. Oswin broke there, consoled by Sal over Benson's body, but that didn't stop him crying. He looked like how I imagine I did crying about my dad, though without the group of friends present to swaddle me in a big hug. He's literally being consoled by some of the same people that were in that hug from your scene. So why... Did we just not have an imagination for how, like, Oz would deal with this scene, so we're just gonna not write it? We're just gonna not write Oz's reaction to his father figure dying, the emotionally stunted nightmare scientist that caused the entire narrative, and his headspace and thought processes being the catalyst of the entire narrative, so it should be the most understandable character to write at this point.
Really curious if they're not even going to open the vault after this.
I don't. This feels like it might be
Imagine.
the fade to black where we're already in like this is the ending part. Like we're done doing scenes. We gave them some privacy though. Dean feeling well enough to lead most of us back to the house. What?
Just keep going. Just keep going.
They're not escaping through the mill. They did. Oh, I guess technically it only said that Sal carried Benson upstairs. He didn't take Benson with them. He just waited there upstairs, I guess. Sal remained behind along with Haas just to give Oswin some help back to the house and what emotional support they could offer. By the time we got back, it was late in the afternoon and we were all exhausted. They're going back to the house. One of the last things Jack had said before he slipped away was that he'd shut off the jammer once they'd made it off the mountain. They never escape through the watermill, even in the ending where they win. It's such a pointless plot device. Until then, it was just a waiting game. I waited by the back door until the others had come back. Though it took a while, between Haas helping Osmond walk and Sal still carrying Benson's body. If only some other characters might be able to help carry Oswin through the long woods with a gunshot wound back to the house. Like a big, strong, like, bear of a man. Oswin didn't want to speak, but instead just watched over Benson until help arrived. Sal excused himself to go wash the blood off. Soon, too, did Haas. The others had already excused themselves to do that, too. We don't need to explain how everyone took turns washing the blood and have a few moments to put themselves back together. Now that everyone was accounted for, I could do the same. You couldn't do it before when you were waiting for them? What does that mean? Ty? I peeked into the bedroom and saw that he was dozing quietly, and I wandered over to check his wounds. Haas had done a good enough job using his shirt as bandages, but he needed something more substantial. Is this the reason why Haas is established to have two shirts? He's the one character that has two shirts, because he's gonna lose one here. So now he's gonna have to get rescued by EMTs while wearing a Ramen is my senpai shirt. Time ticked on, though while we rested, there wasn't much space for sleep, between wondering if we were truly safe. What? He's dead! He's so dead! You cut him in half!
I have so many things to say about how bad this ending is and how anticlimactic this is. And like, we put so much effort into this guy being fucking unkillable, and it just happens in 2 lines of text.
Yeah, he just hit him with a saw blade, and he goes, and then his blood mists through the air.
This is insanity.
Uh-huh. He's really unkillable until the one thing makes him. It reminds me of why I really hated, like, first generation, like, Marvel movies endings. Because 2 really tough things would keep punching each other, and then one of them would lose suddenly, and you're like, oh, that was the good punch, I guess. I'm like, what the fuck just happened? All right, fine. I guess he won. Like, I would just kind of check out for the climax of each movie for a while, because they were usually like that. It's like, so much time spent talking about Memphis not being killable, and then, like, somebody's gonna kill him. It's just a wait. And, like, it's not even, like, a clever answer. Like, no one registers that they can go in through the eyes. They don't, like, even do the thing that was suggested, which was, like, force-feeding him the acid or something, which would be really upsetting. But, no, even after all the planning, he just puts himself in the saw blade room, where there's a saw blade it's an anti-dragon saw blade. Like when the dragon god is in a room full of guns pointed at him that kill dragon gods. He just did that, I guess. Between wondering if we were truly safe and the excitement of things finally being over, what sleep we got was fleeting. I grabbed a small snack and sat beside Tyson as he slept. I don't understand how everyone's first instinct is to sleep. I changed his bandages with a little help from Sal, but for the most part I just wanted him to wake up. It was a miracle that he only came away with injuries rather than died, but deep down, I worried that things were going to get worse, up until he nuzzled lightly into the top of my head, though. We lay like that for what seemed like hours. It probably was literally hours. You're waiting for long-distance help after whenever the jammer goes. It's probably literally hours. I could tell he wasn't asleep, but he wasn't doing anything other than laying there quietly with me. Time passed, and it was quiet. I know, you said that, the last sentence. For once in this vacation, since everything had gone wrong, it was finally quiet. What was the exact moment everything went wrong, I wonder? As much as we were free to have our vacation... Tyson has a bullet in him, Dave. We're free to have our vacation now. He's dying. All we wanted was to go home and put all this behind us. Just move on to something nicer if we could. I awoke sometime early in the morning. Oh my god, Tyson's dead. What the fuck? How was it the next day? Also, the game forgot to say day 25. Just want to point that out.
Oh, stupid.
It forgot to say day 25 when it became day like, what do you mean it's the morning? You have to have the transition. It was a peaceful day. The sun was out. The world outside was bright and warm, and we were alive. Look, it's playing happy piano music. I got up and changed clothes, putting myself on autopilot without even considering that I didn't need to anymore. What? You don't need to wear clothes anymore? There was no danger, but what was different was our access to the outside world. You don't... I got up and changed clothes without considering that I don't need it to anymore because there's no danger? When there's no danger, you don't have to change clothes every morning? When did I pick up the habit? With my phone in hand, I saw that I had reception. Something that I didn't register as significant immediately, but I processed it. I found myself smiling excitedly. You didn't register as significant immediately? Are you that lonely, Dave? Are you so lonely and unloved that your phone doesn't have 1 million notifications because it was suddenly reconnected to the outside world? Which you would then be like, oh fuck, oh right, this wasn't working a second ago. Rushing downstairs, I looked around feeling full of vigor, phone in hand. Should I try calling? It felt momentous enough. Dave woke up in a bloody bed with Tyson, and he's not even described. He just left. Not even a check-in on how Tyson's doing. Should I try calling? It felt momentous enough to be something to wait for everyone for. Why? No, you need... Tyson's dying! Do you not know that? Or at the very least, double check no one else had already called.
I know I've said it a few times, but I just truly feel nothing. Literally
I feel
nothing.
insane.
My head is completely fucking empty right now.
I feel like an insane person.
Feelings.
They got an emergency exit, and they have a shot person, 2 shot people, and they didn't use the escape the whole game built up. They just went back to the house again to wait again, and then napped again while 2 people have gunshot wounds that they might die of. And then in the morning, Dave doesn't even describe Tyson as existing. Like, he just forgot about his bleeding boyfriend brother that's in his bed with him when he woke up.
Yeah. Correct.
But as I looked at my phone, I felt a chill down my spine. Something didn't feel right. Something about that very moment felt off. Is anyone there? No response. Peeking into the side room where I last saw Oswin had only Benson laying there, though now covered with a sheet. I took it that everyone was just sleeping, and that's all it had to be, at least until I saw an eerie blue glow in the corner of my vision. It didn't last long, but I saw it in the direction of the basement. When I got down there, though, it was quiet. It's very surreal to have the happy morning music was still playing. They forgot to have it cut out when he had the bad feeling, so it kept playing while he described Benson under a sheet, a corpse. It was still playing like happy village music from like Stardew or something. When I got down there, though, it was quiet. No one was down here as far as I could tell. The lights were off and the secret passage closed. Anyone down here? I was about to leave and head back upstairs when I felt the fur on the back of my neck stand on end. Something was wrong down here, and my curiosity got the better of me. If we'd already dealt with Memphis, oh, the danger was gone, right? As I wandered the basement, I found nothing out of the ordinary. Nothing even wrong with the gym from the brief glance I gave it. But the vault, though, that's where I found something wrong. I spotted it immediately. This was what was wrong. I know, you just said the last sentence. That was the same sentence again. The first was Thanatos laying sprawled out on the floor, seemingly discarded without a care in the world. The second, though, was that the vault door was open. Not by much, but I could tell that it wasn't sitting right along with the keypad. That it wasn't sitting right along with the keypad next to the door that having just a faint... Not by much, but I could tell that it wasn't sitting right along with the keypad next to the door, having just a faint glow coming off of it. What? I give up. The way that the description shoots from the door to the keypad back to the door as a reference to the door is like so fucking confusing that you're like, what is it? You
Yeah.
just say it's cracked open and there's a light coming out of the crack. What the fuck's wrong? There's such... I don't... Normally when I have to interpret what someone's saying, it's at least poetic language, but it's just really literal language used confusingly instead of saying the obvious thing. Hello? Thanatos was offline, and with it, the vault, which means someone put in the code to open the door, but how'd they go inside? How is the vault offline if the code works? That doesn't make sense. Carefully, I approached the door and eased it open more so I could look inside. All that stretched before me was a dark room. The contents I could barely make out until I took a step in and used my phone as a flashlight. The faint glint of broken glass on the floor made me kneel down to get a closer look. Oh no! Somebody released Radical 6! We're all gonna die now! In a puddle on the floor was a green liquid, though I didn't smell anything I could identify.
Smell of anything I could identify. Interesting.
Though it didn't smell of anything I could identify. Was this Oswald's medicine? Why was it spilled on the ground like this? Stop calling it medicine when it's a kill everybody vial. Had someone opened the door just to do this? Hey Thanatos, can you hear me at all? I checked the panel properly since my arrival and saw the word lit up on the screen. Offline. If he was offline, then I could yell down the house, but he probably wouldn't be able to hear me. I made my way back upstairs with Thanatos in my arms, wondering what I should do with him. Roswell was the one to ask about him for sure. Can't believe they released Radical 6. This is going to be another bad N-word where we doom the world, isn't it? And then you have to get the true ending to not doom the world because Dave was too stupid to not walk into the room that he was already told contained a kill everybody vial. He wasn't, because otherwise that was set up for no reason and it just never comes up. So obviously it was foreshadowing the stupid ending because everything is stolen from Zero Escape all the way down to Radical 6 of all things. The dumbest part of Zero Escape. Just easily the dumbest thing that the creator of Zero Escape ever thought of is fucking Radical 6, which somehow is supposed to explain not noticing moon gravity. That's the entire reason it existed. It was not actually... it was just it was such a nightmare device. Ugh. He wasn't in his room, and though I didn't search the house for long, I found myself standing outside. It was as peaceful as it was when I woke up, but I couldn't shake the feeling from earlier. Why did it feel as like something was wrong? Is everybody already dead of Radical 6? Is that what happened? Roswell? Even Tyson, who was supposed to be in the bed with him, got up, got infected by Radical 6, walked out here, and then died in the pool or something. He wasn't by the pool. In fact, it looked like no one had been there in a fair while. Roswell? Are you there? That feeling started to grow stronger when I didn't find him in the greenhouse either. I looked down to Thanatos with a frown, turning him over slowly. It looked like he was just sleeping, if a little limp, and then it started to sink in. You described him previously as not looking any different when he shut off, as further reinforcing his alienness and how he was never alive. And now you're just like, oh, he's just snoozing. What a cute little guy. Doesn't make any sense. Hey, Watermarks. It's been a while.
Yeah.
The search for Roswell became more desperate. My fur was bristling off my skin the closer I seemed to get to the hedge maze, a sign that I took as me being in the right place. Turn after turn through the maze I took, trying to remember the path I took when Thanatos guided me to the middle. I'm sorry. It just caught up with me. The climax of the entire narrative features 0 CGs.
Correct.
Both times, but especially in the A route. No CGs. Not a single one. And they were just doing a little better on CGs. Like the expression between Tyson and Dave when they're having their little spat was like it added. So like the CGs were going somewhere, and then they just stopped making new ones when the climax of the entire narrative happened. Okay. Part of me wanted to find nothing in the center of the maze. The other part wanted Roswell. I just wasn't sure if fighting Roswell was going to be good or bad. Thankfully, I didn't have to wait long. More noticeable watermarks. My breath caught in my chest as the middle of the hedge maze opened out before me. Roswell was sitting on the bench, head down in front I could see, even this far away, struggling to breathe. Roswell?
Dave!
I wandered closer, stopping before him, unsure what to say or do at first before he glanced up at me briefly.
Good morning.
Hey, I found Thanatos downstairs, and holding the limp rat out, Roswell barely managed to hold his hands out for me to hand him over. The act dropped an envelope from Roswell's lap, a single name written on the front. What's this? Roswell looked from me to the letter, watching me pick it up to see that it was addressed to me.
That's for you.
For me? Carefully, I opened the letter, pulling out the contents and started to read. Oh, now I get a CG. Dave reading a letter.
From his dad, probably, so I'll read it.
Dave.
I think it's Roswell because it's pink. I think it's his suicide
It's
note
not
or something.
pink, it's white.
I think it's
I guess
pink.
it is from Roswell.
Yeah, it's pink.
Is it pink? It's 100%. If I eyedroppered this, it would be white. This is okay.
I
Odd.
can tell it's pink, but my cool artist
maybe it's just
eyes.
Discord eating it. Let me show you what it looks like on my screen, because it is certainly not pink on my screen. It's very white. So it says,
Dave, if you're reading this, then our vacation is about to be over.
It's pink on my screen. On
that's
your
so
screen.
weird. I'm gonna eyedropper this. We're
I
taking
think,
a minute.
I
I'm gonna
think
do
your
this.
contrast settings might be a little intense.
I am on an HDR screen,
or mine are
so
weaker.
yeah. Let me see. Your color accuracy might also just be bad.
I'm correctly identifying the pink text as pink when the pink character talks.
Incorrect. I have a color calibrated monitor. I know what I'm talking about.
Excuse me, my monitor and eyes are perfect. Ignore how the narrative is.
I would like you to know
right.
that with an eyedropper, this is R255, G255, B255.
R stands for red. I'm right.
255 is white. That's white. It's a white text.
That's not white text.
It's white text. This is 100% white text.
It's lies.
I'm gonna do this, right? Look at this.
Right,
I have zoomed in.
All right, let's open GIMP. Let's GIMP it up.
Yeah, you can GIMP it up and you're gonna go, wow, Toaster's so fucking right.
Well, it could be implied pink. It could be color theory.
No, it's not color theory. It's a computer screen.
It's color theory.
I'm gonna type in the comments below if this is white or pink.
Hey, look, chat. Look how obviously pink this is.
Okay, so I'm taking the eyedropper tool and I'm literally looking at it, and it is R255.
Look how pink everything about my screen is. You see how pink everything is? Just overwhelmingly pink.
Yeah, that does. Yeah, that's super bizarre.
F4DBF3. My eyes crossed a little bit trying to read text that's small far away.
This is probably Discord being weird. Also, that is super bizarre. Anyway,
maybe this is why you've been freaking out about colors all the time.
No, the colors on my screen look really great. My monitor is color calibrated. It is correct.
Yeah, but but the Discord.
But Discord sucks. Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue.
Oop. Okay.
He better put my fucking screenshot on this so you all know. He's gonna do video editing
let me get back to that now. I thought we were continuing.
We are. You need to progress the text.
Yeah, but I'm bringing up the fucking thing on your command now.
Hurry the fuck up.
This is his dumbass screenshot for stupid eyes and bad computers. Look how bad and dumb his computer is.
I'm gonna
look at that. Look what his computer did to his dumb. Also, look at all the pink on the edges of his text. Further showing
that's called
something's wrong with the
aliasing.
screen.
It's not anything wrong with my screen. That's just reading what the fucking file is.
Look at all that pink. Anyway.
I'm gonna throw Keith out a window.
He's trying. He keeps coming at me, bro. Trick you into visiting.
In the best way possible, too. I wrote this in hopes that when we come back from the watermill, that we'd all have survived, that we'd be able to go home and one day put all of this behind us.
That'd be really rough if you were super wrong.
If this is Tyson, maybe that would be funny.
But things are never that simple, are they? There's always something that gets overlooked, or someone that gets overlooked and lost along the way. If you're reading this, then either you came back to the mansion without me, or I gave you this letter. For what it's worth, I hope I'm the one that was able to give it to you. I was doomed from the beginning, Dave. I was never meant to live past this vacation.
We know! Stop reiterating yourself!
From making myself more sick to get clearer visions from the vault, to trying anything and everything to keep you safe and alive. After all, if you died, what did that mean for the rest of us?
Scientifically, it means that the rest of you survive. I'm pretty sure.
Feels like it. There's also like
There's so much import put on Dave, who is a genuinely insignificant character with literally zero agency.
It's also like the reveal that Roswell injected himself half the game ago, or 2/3 of the game ago, to intentionally give himself more vault visions, but then us getting just nothing about his vault visions whatsoever besides that short perspective swap of him experiencing one timeline total is just, there's no narrative impact. Like, you don't get any indication that he even accomplished anything in that process. You finally got what you wanted from Password. Novel mode.
Yeah, this is great. It is much easier to read.
It's the same as letting Memphis get access to the vault. No matter what happened, I couldn't allow that to happen either. All that mattered was to give you as much time as I possibly could, and hopefully you'd outlive your friend who was doomed to die all those years ago. But I'm not sad about it. Even if I may die soon, know that I'll do so happy. I have no regrets about what I did, and if I had to do it all over again, I would. Not because of some grand ideal like love, or because I was deluded enough to think I'd be able to save the world, but because it was right.
I have no regrets having killed our friends in several timelines that are still true and happened.
In whatever warped way right here means anyway. My choices were between doing nothing and watching you all die, or choosing one person to take the fall and save the rest. Even if that person to die was me, then so be it. You just had to remember that that everything afterwards would be fine.
How did you die? How did you take the fall to save the rest? Like, what about your death saved everyone? And also, it's not a sacrifice because you were dying. What?
At least that's what Thanatos told me. I wished I never had to make that decision, but years of nightmares and the insistence of someone that I trusted knew better convinced me otherwise. And then when I asked my uncle what was happening to me, he looked so sad and offered to help me with whatever I needed, no matter what.
This is incredible. I feel like I know exactly what inspired this moment, and I think it's hysterical. I think it is hysterical.
Is it the part where they save Akane and she vanishes and Junpei picks up a note explaining everything that happened in 999?
Yeah, I was gonna say that, but also this is very similar. This is like the worst version of a really great moment in Umineko, which is it's a chapter that it's not in the visual novel. It's a book, and then eventually got added to a later like release of the visual novel, where it's called Our Confession, and it's a confession from the killer, the person responsible. But yeah, this is wild. Okay.
Blah, blah, blah. He offered his house. He offered everything he could to create a space where you were taken from so much danger, if only for us to throw you right back in. I'm sorry, Dave. I'm sorry for everything I put you through, for everything I did wrong, and for everything that I can't protect you from in the future. I'm not sorry, except for when I'm sorry. I'm sorry that this road caused you so much pain and suffering, and that I wasn't able to make you understand sooner.
It's just so hard to take it seriously when anything says the phrase "I'm sorry, Dave."
Yeah.
Writing this is hard, but do you know what I'm looking forward to most, even if I'll never get to see it, or rather, remember it? It's meeting you again when we're kids, when the universe ends and everything resets after all those years. I'm looking forward to getting to meet you again. Even if it's something as simple as building a snowman, that day is incredibly special to me. But what are the chances any of this is even real? Or that these things even happen? Even now I'm wondering if this wasn't some huge cruel joke by the gods or a demon just to make us suffer for entertainment.
A demon.
If I'm being honest, I'm scared, Dave. Scared of what's about to happen now that we're so close to the end. Will it hurt? Will you all forget me? Am I going to see my mom again? If you do get to see her, would you tell her that I love her, just in case I can't?
I put the letter down, looking to Roswell. The letter had ended there, without him even signing his name. That is a strange moment of ending, yeah. Roswell? Standing there in front of him, I could tell he was at peace. While not smiling, he looked calm. He was dead. He died watching us read his note.
Okay. This is stupid. This is so dumb.
He just quietly died staring at us while we ignored him to read his stupid note.
Yeah, it's
like
stupid.
Dave walked in on someone's seconds from death and proceeded to just ignore him.
It's fine.
Like you can read his note afterwards. You're like, even I can tell he's struggling to breathe.
It's fine. I'm not gonna.
It's incredible.
I'm not gonna consider it.
That's how your most hated character in fiction ends. As I struggled to come to terms with what was in front of me, the weight of the envelope registered as heavy enough to have more than just paper in it. Inside was another medal. That's what it engraved with a stylized M.
So Roswell had the medal the whole time.
When's the last time we even encountered a medal? It's like a joke when everyone comes up because they're so spread out.
It's such a stupid way. It's such a stupid thing. I hate it.
Roswell. I flinched hearing Oswin bellow from somewhere in the backyard. Immediately, I understood the position I was in and started to cry. Already missing Roswell, sad for the discovery that Osmond was about to make, and the tragedy that he wasn't coming home with us. I trudged back the way I came, having left the letter with Roswell and Thanatos. He looked up as I made myself known, emerging from the hedge maze. Though while I didn't say anything, my face said it all. I came to a stop before him, cheeks still wet with tears and threatening to cry again. Roswell? He... Oh. He crumpled slightly, the crutch that he was using being discarded as he sat down on the steps looking out at the backyard. Then quietly, he started to cry. Eyes forward. That's all he did, not reacting when I sat next to him to offer a hug. Do you need a hug? No thanks. Go away. We sat like that for a while, long enough that I lost track of exactly how long it had been. The only reason I knew time had passed at all was Haas rushing out to tell us help was on the way. With Oswin injured, getting down the driveway was difficult, but we managed. There's no mention of getting Roswell's body. As a group, we left the mansion behind and stepped out of the road to wait, and before long, we heard the telltale siren signaling someone had come to help. 3 weeks later. Still on day 24. It had been too long. Come on, man. People played this game and didn't say anything about any of these moments and then recommended the game. How does this get past any level of proofreading?
This is the best route and the best boyfriend, apparently.
In case anyone somehow missed that, 3 weeks later. It had been a long 2 weeks. Literally the next line. Just, come on, man. How? Literally how? Like, how?
This is terrible. It makes me numb.
I wrote a story for one person, and I was afraid to give it to them before I showed it to a few other people for proofreading, because, like, writing... Because, like, when you finish a drawing, the trick is to just go away for a day, and then come back the next day and look at it, and let it hit you all at once. And instead of fixating on these little details that you were, like, stressing over, you can just try to judge if the drawing's good, because you just see it all at once again. But writing... You can't just look at it all at once at a glance. You have to sit there and read it all, and then you have to, like, be mindful of whether or not, like, the text actually says what you want it to, or if you're, like, backfilling from your brain because you know what you meant to write and so on. But, like, there's a lot of reasons why proofreaders are important. I don't know how someone does this alone. I don't know how someone makes this mistake without proofreaders even. A lot of us just crying and breaking down on the way to the hospital and police station to explain what happened. It was a miracle that we were, for the most part, uninjured, at least physically. 2 of us were shot, man. They had to keep... 2 of us are dead and 2 of us are shot. Are mostly unharmed. How do you say that sentence? They had to keep Tyson in hospital and only just got discharged him a few days before or after surgery. Ah! Okay, that technically made sense at the end, but you don't, that's a nightmare to read. A few days before or after surgery. You need commas at least. Discharged him a few days before, comma, after surgery. I don't know. It's such a mess. Apparently, he was very lucky in how the bullets had hit him, though it was going to be potentially years for him to fully recover. So not that lucky. It meant that he couldn't go to Roswell's funeral. But given the circumstances, no one blamed him. The rest of us, though, were shaken and still jittery. Maybe we all thought that we were still going to be hunted, or about to wake up back on the mountain. As the nights went by, though, the easier it got to realize that I was safe at home and that this wasn't some dream that Thanatos was feeding him. I looked over to Tyson, leaning against a tree and watching on as I tended to Dad's grave. Oh, that's just... You could not have made this more confusing.
Correct.
We're here with Tyson after he couldn't go to Roswell's funeral because we're also at the graveyard, but on a different day. Okay. So it technically, if I give so much benefit of the doubt that I'm basically lying, I can say technically the 2 weeks and 3 weeks were not a contradiction. It was just so badly written that they were recapping that a funeral happened 2 weeks later, but we're currently 3 weeks later at a graveyard for different reasons. But we summarized a different graveyard activity at the beginning of this graveyard activity that happened 2 weeks ago, but also in a way that's written so badly that it's actively not saying that. I get it though, before somebody's like annoying in the comments. It's abysmal writing, but I get it. I looked over to Tyson, leaning against a tree and watching on as I tended to Dad's grave. He shot me a small smile, though. I could tell him he was... we just need more commas, just in general. He shot me a small smile, comma, though I could tell he was in pain. Do you need more medicine? I'll be fine. Yeah, but you need more medicine right now? No, I'll be fine, thanks. You sure? Just keep talking to Dad, I'm not going anywhere. I know, but I'm just, you know, playing it careful. Careful? What's dangerous about this place? Hey, you almost died, right? Yeah. I know that's probably that's probably more comfortable over there. What? I know that's probably more comfortable over there. I don't think you can use that's to abbreviate it's. I don't think you can turn that it is into that's. I know that's probably more comfortable over there, but you can come closer if you like. In a bit, it's just gotta be careful. We came all the way to your dad's grave, but then I stopped over here instead. And now I gotta like work that off. He lightly gestured to his front end where I knew that under his clothes he was heavily bandaged still. Yeah, I know. Why isn't he in a wheelchair? Dick. Why didn't you just bring him in a wheelchair? I noticed him looking off to the side quickly, and upon following his gaze, I saw two familiar people wandering over, up towards us. Oh god, they're both here at the same time. It's all the worst endings simultaneously. It's every bore. Hello. Osmond looked between the two of us, but his voice was held low, closer to a mumble. With him was his sister, who we'd met properly at the funeral for Roswell. What do you think her name's gonna be this time? How are you two?
Florenica.
Again!
Yeah,
Her name's wrong again!
it is correct.
It pays to be perceptive to details, so you can just savor these moments. God damn it. Fine, and yourself? Injured. Odd, but recovering well, I hope. Flora, this is hardly the place. If not here, then where, Ozzy? Okay. Just gonna throw that at us. Are you two here visiting Roswell? Among other things. Flora had something she wanted to give you. It's not the money, is it? We didn't end up finding all the medals, so... Ozzy, you didn't go bribing them, did you? I offered incentive. Well, in any case, I suppose I should rightly hand over what I have, She dug around in her pocket briefly and offered out a medal for me to take. It was enough for Tyson to wander over carefully with a frown. What the fuck is that for? Oh, you never know. But not only was the vault door opened, what was inside was destroyed, so we don't really have a need for this anymore, do we? You might not have a need for it, no, but someone might. Meaning? Meaning that she's symbolically offering it to you, Dave. Or I suppose literally as well, the act itself is more important. I don't get it. The game might be over now, but who's to say it won't come in handy should you play again? I gave her a look, and she just chuckled lightly. Come on, take it. What harm could it do? I took the medal from her, looking it over as she stepped back. Virgo. Interesting.
Is it interesting?
I don't know. I have no idea what it's supposed to symbolize. Well, I hit a couple, but I still had this one and one other. Not that I have both on me now. And you thought to only bring one. It's not going to do well for our experiment to go giving everything away, is it? Oswin grunted, shaking his head before looking from his sister to us.
That's who they remind me of. The Lutece twins. Who are similarly stupid.
Lutece twins fucking sucked.
Like, needless.
People just liked that they had two good voice actors, but they were garbage.
I mean, BioShock Infinite's fatalism stuff is like really dumb, and like doesn't actually work out for the themes that it's writing. And there are ways to do that character interestingly, but this is not it.
The Lutece twins were bad.
Yeah.
It didn't work.
This is stunning.
They were just charming, which some people mistake for being good, but they didn't work.
I'm glad that we both came to the same conclusion at the same time.
Yep. I've spent 12 years forgetting BioShock Infinite, but it keeps clawing its way back in.
So did everyone else.
I still have a copy of that where I specifically still have the cover inverted to be like the stylized cover, which I voted for in advance. I voted for that cover because they did a vote on which stylized cool cover to have instead of the really, really lame one that it was going to inevitably have as its real cover, which is man standing with gun. Because that was every cover of every 360 game for like 6 years straight, was the Mass Effect / BioShock Infinite cover of a guy standing either facing forward or backwards with a gun and a basic background and then a logo every game. The cover's nice.
Let's continue.
Just thinking of other bad games. Once again, intense differences in shading from character to character. Just also scale. No one's the same scale as any other character, but Tyson has light outline shading. Oswin has zero shading whatsoever, and Florenica has the most intense, just over detailed soft shading all over her body, and they're all in a scene together. And Tyson is behind Oz, implying that Oz is a tiny man because he's closer than Tyson is by being in front of his sprite. So the perspective's also fucked up on that level. You could forgive it if Tyson was in the front because then you'd be like, oh, they're just standing further away. But no. Anyway, just details that you miss, like Florenica, if you don't pay careful attention and play test and proofread. Well, it was nice to see you both. We probably should be moving along. But Ozzy, I had a whole talk about symbolism ready. They don't need that. Hell, I don't need that right now. They get it.
I don't get it.
I don't get it. What's the point of why Virgo? Are you gonna tell me that all of the medals were placed in symbolically significant ways and not just at random? Spoil sport. Answer me something real quick. What is it, Tyson? So all this stuff, was it worth it to you? I like to think so. Though, how much of that is necessary sacrifice versus hopefulness that there was a point to it all? Though how much of that is necessary sacrifice versus hopefulness that there was a point to all of this after all? That's just not that sentence doesn't work. It doesn't. What? Necessary sacrifice? The idea that while things played out the way they did now is only so things can play out better some other time in some other go around of the cosmic cycle. She sounds like a toddler. I felt myself frown at her, though she didn't seem to register my reaction. So, to that end, all I can do is hope that while it's sad for us now, somewhere out there we're happier. That we still have the potential to incite change for the better. And that's enough. Oswin took his sister by the shoulders, slightly guiding her away from Dad's grave. I wish you the best of health. I wish you the best of health, you too. What? Oh, you too is supposed to be the number 2. Jesus fucking Christ. Alright. It might be a long road to recovery, but I can say now that things, at least for a while, should be alright. Oswin? Yes? Take care of yourself. He gave me a long stare before slowly a shy smile crept onto his face. I'll try. I feel like Oswin's not characterized as shy. He's just socially inept in the douchier way. As they wandered away, I got up and stood before Tyson, pocketing the medal. Home time? Only if you're ready to go. You're the one recovering from an injury. I forgot I was talking to Dad, apparently, and never finished doing that. And I'm just... typical Dave ADHD. I don't want to keep you out too late when you'd rather be comfortable in front of the television. It's not like we can get up to much else. Not for the next bit, anyway. But when I get the clearance to start exerting myself again, you're in trouble. Oh, really now? We shot each other a sly grin before laughing. Ty gingerly placing an arm around my shoulder as we took one last look at Dad's grave. Alright, Ty, let's go home. And so we did. Though shaky to start, as the months passed by, things started to settle, and we found a sort of happiness we could call our own, which culminated in me asking Tyson to marry me. Once, just a dick move to bring him here without a wheelchair once again. But also, are we gonna acknowledge Tyson's dad? The reason he was running away?
Probably not.
And this, like, did we forget? I don't think I'd seen him so emotional. Though there's notably a lot more swearing whenever I tease him about it to our friends. He found a small job around the time Dean asked him if I wanted to run the cafe with him. So with both of us working, each day was a cycle of waking up, working hard, and finding comfort in each other's arms as the evening wore on. Everyone was around, too, funnily enough. No one really seemed keen on moving too far away from each other after the month was up. Though I could never place exactly why. Fear, maybe? Or just obligation. None of us will move apart from each other in life because we feel obligated to each other now. They live like 3 doors down the street from Tyson's dad. Sal ended up managing the local gym and seemed to be happy. Happy enough, anyway. He was constantly on my case about making sure I stopped by every now and again to get me off the sofa. Isn't the sequel about Sal being a cop?
I don't want to talk about that.
Like they just.
We're gonna
what do you mean he's running the gym in the epilogue? Haas ended up getting real into doing something online for his job. Something online, cool. I couldn't tell if it was playing video games or talking about anime or something, but he met his girlfriend through that. She's nice. Doing something online for his job. You just never checked? Just didn't bother? Haas is so uninteresting to you, you didn't just think you'd, like, look up what he does at some point? Is it a YouTube channel? Orlando did end up opening his bakery, though it took a while. Years, in fact. But the day it opened was the happiest I'd ever seen him. No idea what happened with the rest of his family. It's something he chooses not to talk about. I'm guessing he didn't inherit millions of dollars of crime money if he had that much trouble opening a bakery. As for Oswin, I never saw him again. Never heard from him or his sister ever again either. As if they just disappeared entirely. I found myself occasionally sitting at home, wondering if this really was the end, or if things could have played out any differently. Really, who could say?
I cannot believe this is how this path ends. This was the most anticlimactic, thematically void, garbage nonsense that possibly could have happened. I don't know what I expected, but it was not this mundane garbage.
Literally, the stakes of the entire 24-day story are, oh no, we have to do something about this invincible dragon that we can just kill.
we can just kill using some shit that we can scavenge from the house that have been here in every single route.
Yeah. All they
And
had
why
to do
did Dean
was
have to be the one to go? I don't get it.
I don't.
The thing is that normally in games like this, where you're hopping between timelines,
it's just a stream of consciousness with no plan. Like, it literally was like, Dave was the hostage, but that didn't work. So Roswell's the hostage. Oh, that didn't work. Dean, I guess.
Well,
for the hostage plan that itself
this
never made sense.
The thing about this that's really confusing is just that, like, normally in games like this, like Raging Loop or 999 even, when you make a change, like, that change is very tangibly significant, right? Where it's like, even when 999 or Zero Escape does like a goofy thing of like, actually, you need to tell this person to do something so they don't wander over to the right side of the room. Like, there's a very, yeah, like, there's like a really prescient cause and effect of like, okay, like, we're going to take this person with us because this person is good at technology and they're going to be distracted by the technology. So when the thing on the other side of the room goes off, it doesn't kill anyone. Like, there's like a very clear pathway to the decisions that then have a very tangible effect on the narrative. Using Raging Loop as an example, it's like you are making decisions that very drastically affect the plot, and the plot changes around those. In this, it is exactly as you said. It's like Dave goes, and then Dave dies for some reason. So we send Roswell, and something completely fucking different happens, but then he dies for a completely different, inexplicable reason. Dean goes, I guess it works out. Like, it's just like, what? Like, what? How? What was the logic behind Dean being important to go here? Like, what changed so much between these?
Particularly because, like, the Roswell bad end happened because Dave interfered. But the other two endings were just the hostage thing going according to plan.
Poorly. Yeah, yeah.
Like, yeah, going poorly and according to plan. But, like, Dean, they just eventually tie up and take over there. But Dave, they stab.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why Dave dies. Like, different outcomes happen arbitrarily. And, like, it's even more confusing because, like, what prompts Dom to randomly walk up and just strike a deal to just take himself and Jack out of the story?
Yeah.
He just does that randomly when Dean's hostage, but he doesn't do that when Dave's hostage, which he also had time to do.
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing there that actually changes.
Yeah, like Jack killed
logic.
Dave because at that point in the narrative, Jack and Dom had not removed themselves from the story, but nothing had changed to cause that or to happen or not happen.
Yeah.
Because Dave and Dean don't strike that deal. Dom just decides to do that so that arbitrarily Jack and Dom can survive the story and go be gay and on the horizon. They literally ride off into the sunset.
This is so stupid.
Yeah, it's just I don't what really kills me is I'm just like, I feel like a lot of stories people write, they often have an ending in mind they're really excited to get to and how cool the reveal or set piece is going to be. And what really like deflates me whenever we finish Password is that I don't get any sense of where it was trying to go and what story it wanted to tell and what it thought was cool. Like, it just, because nothing crazy happens. It's just no visual novel has done that to me before. Like, Before You Depart, obviously going towards an ending. Arches and Echo, obviously going to a number of endings. Ad Astra, yep. Fucking every Phoenix Wright case is leading up to a big reveal about the thing that's going on. Every single Zero Escape game has a completely unhinged ending that it was very obviously planning for, whether it was good or not. Like, they very clearly thought it was rad as shit. And I'm like, and at least the spectacle and level of absurdity is there for me to understand. Like, I can comprehend why the endings are doing things, even if I'm like mad at some of the ass pulls that like Danganronpa and Zero Time Dilemma will pull, and be like, it's not necessarily an ass pull because they did it on purpose the whole time, but I'm like, it's just the reveal makes me just go, fuck you. But it's a reveal. Nothing here. There's just Oz doesn't, Memphis doesn't have a plan. Everyone remains passive participants. Dom and Jack just leave. they don't use any abilities or skills or like things they learned to do things. Puzzlingly, like in a fundamental misunderstanding of the genre that they're using and the game that they're very clearly cribbing on, you use zero intel from other timelines to defeat Memphis ever. So the Vault doesn't even defeat Memphis, even though that's like the one thing Dave has. And once again, just like in Day and Path B end, it's very clear that Path A and B's endings were just written from scratch for that day's update with no lead up whatsoever. Because it really is just like how homophobia is established on the last day of Password out of nowhere. And by the way, Dom and Jack are gay, and Tyson's also kind of homophobic out of nowhere, and that's going to come up in the ending. And Thanatos zaps Orlando, and that's going to somehow kill Memphis later, and so on. It all happens on the last day out of nowhere. This one, they just like on the last day, like, I don't know, look around, look for acid. We found some acid. like all of the stuff involved in the ending just comes up on the last day. Like it literally was just like, this is the time for this Patreon update. It's time to write the ending. So, and then he just started writing the ending from scratch with no lead up. Like there was no like plan. It wasn't like a specific thing that he felt the need to like lay the groundwork for over the course of the last like 2 weeks of the narrative. It's just, no, just gonna make up an ending from scratch on the last day. 2 endings in this case, because there was 2 that had to happen in parallel, but it's like neither of them, they don't like reflect off of each other in any ironic ways. The 2 endings aren't in conversation with each other in any way I can think of. They don't interact with the story beforehand, and they don't interact with the Vault. Just all of the ideas and structures and themes and mechanics of the narrative do not come into play in these endings. They just happen out of nowhere, and you're like, oh, I guess there was a buzzsaw. That's lucky. It sure is lucky that they don't have a modern safe table saw like all those ones you buy nowadays. This one just killed them. And it's a table saw that's both not hand safe and will kill somebody that's bulletproof. That's handy. We found exactly what his power level is. It's somewhere between pistol bullet and table saw, I guess. Or lumber saw. Why does a watermill have a lumber saw? Is that worth questioning?
No, that's a common thing.
Is it a common thing? Okay.
Yes.
So I genuinely don't know. I'm like, why is this watermill a lumber mill? I don't understand exactly.
Mills are often powered by water wheels, so that's not that weird.
We did that. He got his research on point.
We're done with this route. I'm gonna pee because I've had to pee for 50 minutes.
Nope.
It's gonna happen. I'm peeing.
I'm peeing. I'm doing it right now. I'm gonna pee with the Roswell voice. Well done. Once again, more CGs, but none in the climax of the story. You've reached the end.
Right.
Finally.
They're shackles, but he has bone arms.
Yeah, I don't know what to think of that.
Anime. That's what I think of
I'm
that.
not even sure if they're robot bone arms.
I don't think so. I think they're bones.
There really are so many anime sensibilities. Yes, it'd be delightfully cringe if the tone could carry it, but it just doesn't. It's mostly just it's baffling when you get to this point. You've reached the end. Finally. It's good to see you. Are you wondering what exists here? At the end of time? At the end of life? Let me show you. But first, let's check a few things, shall we? Memory reaches across time and space alike if it's strong enough. Or, if you never die, that helps too. If you're like me, being an observer from the outside has its benefits. I don't know how you can be an observer outside of time when you're in a finite vault that has a beginning and end in its existence. In this endless expanse of the dark, it's funny that the pattern repeats in a loop.
Life, asterisms. Even I don't know when I started coming into being anymore, though I recognize my origins. This should be no surprise, given you saw me grow and develop into whatever existence this is. Godhood, perhaps. But as I said, we have things to check. Ares. Your memory of this is on Roswell's bedside table, yes? Or rather, Dave's memory of it, anyway. This one was tucked away by Thanatos and used as a push towards the breaking point.
Wait, so it's breaking the fourth wall and now establishing that we, the player, are a consciousness separate of Dave.
Yeah, that we, the player, need to get the medals.
I hate this.
Yup.
I hate that it took this long to do this. Granted, this is ending A, I guess.
Yeah.
It's fine. This is the ending most people will probably get. It's fine.
This one was tucked away by Thanatos and used to push towards that breaking point, though to his credit it worked. Taurus. Placed a long time ago by a young girl under a pumpkin, surrounded by its element. It lay in wait, patient for its time to be found. By Dave, no less. Gemini. Split as a joke, or perhaps a more rigorous test, to see if the adage was indeed correct. That two people could come to understand one another and exist in perfect equilibrium. Leo. A long time ago, this was hidden somewhere intended to be found, not for Dave, but for Roswell, to point him towards the truth by his mother. But as that became less and less likely, or rather because Thanatos missed the truth, things played out differently. Virgo. You would think that it would immediately imply a virginal maiden, and to some extent that is true. Innocence and purity are more important factors here. Some have equated this with a clean slate, though not one granted after the fact, more a starting point. Scorpio. Some consider this to be one of the more evil signs, though we place no stock in that here. After all, they are merely signs in the sky, and while the person that gave Dave this particular medal was the root of all this tragedy, well, not that it matters anyway. Sagittarius. In one place, this was handed to Dave to mark the point where things ended, and in another as a symbol to look towards the future. A guiding arrow, or perhaps a weapon to continue inflicting suffering and pain. This is noise. What the fuck are you saying? Capricorn. Despite looking like a swoopy N, says the god of death. Why? It's a sign of logic and tenacity, or perhaps that's just what we impress upon it due to our dear friend Sal.
Sorry, I'm not going to make you repeat everything, but I genuinely, ADHD just happened to me and I completely zoned out everything he has said so far.
That's fine. I don't absorb any of it.
No, I don't even mean that in a, like, I was just staring at the screen, looking at his face the entire time, and I realized that I was just like, where are we right now? Is this what the end of the universe looks like? And then I heard you say swoopy N, and I was like, what? Wait, what are we talking about? And then I realized I hadn't actually listened to anything that was just said.
I'm reading it for the audience, but I don't expect them or me to remember any of the specific details, because who can memorize all these when they're not even
That's great.
They're like not even real clues, they're just like vague nudges, and the real thing to do is just play every route. So
oh man,
who cares? It's not worth hunting for a specific one until you think you've done everything and you're like, why is one gone? And then you have to look that one up at the end.
Yeah, boy. Anyway, continue. That was stupid.
Either way, this one is planted to be found by Benson. Just as well, too. Oops. Aquarius. The sign of unrestrained flow. It will keep going of its own accord, like time, regardless of the whims of those around it. Perhaps that's why it found its way into the middle of a maze. So, how many does that make? 9? A shame, really. There are still some missing. We found that many? Wait, oh, they're not even clues. We found all those, I guess. That's way more than I thought we had. But how many are there total? Like 13? Do we just need to find one for each remaining... That's because we have 4 characters left. There are still some missing. Perhaps you've not seen everything there is to see, done all there is to do. But don't worry. We'll meet again. No doubt it'll be sooner than either of us think. Remember when this was Tyson's route? Anyway.
I can't believe.
Route A died. What character do we play next, Toaster? It's a real Sophie's anti-choice.
I don't care. I guess we just go one by one through them. So like,
should we do them in order of least significance? Whatever that even means. Is it Haas's turn to come out to us as bi?
Yeah, I mean, we could do Haas, I guess.
It's also we did perfectly split the characters between people you voice and that I voice.
Yeah, so it's only fair that we do a route that I have to fucking voice act through
with your normal voice.
With my normal voice. I don't want to do Roswell, but at the same time, I feel like the Roswell one, I don't know. I feel like that one's going to be the longest. Who do you think is going to be the shortest? Who's going to have the least scenes? Probably Haas.
Maybe Haas. He feels like he wasn't written.
Yeah, Haas is like irrelevant.
But ultimately, I have no idea. Like
Haas. Well, no, hold on.
Whatever these scenes, whatever we see, it can't affect the story.
So there's
who knows
there's
how much
Haas
there
and
is.
Roswell left, and then Dean and Orlando, right?
Yep.
So 2 for both of us. So who do you want to see more right now? Do you want to save Haas for being irrelevant at the end of the story, or do you want to save Haas? Do you want to do Haas now so it just feels more climactic when we do the other ones?
Yeah, that's why I was leaning towards least significant characters, because Haas and Orlando don't do anything. Roswell's obviously the main character, and Dean is the character that the game won't stop making important. The game insists on.
So we should do Haas, Dean, Orlando, Roswell.
Sure.
Okay, let's do that. Do we know which routes? Does it matter which route they are? Do we have to do path A or path B?
I have no idea.
Because the big brain thought is to do route B because it's also shorter.
That doesn't matter, because famously the romances just kind of stop on day 19.
Yeah, they do. But I feel like we had more scenes in Route A after day 19 with our romance interests, no matter what. Just like little scenes. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
I didn't feel like we did.
I have a burrito now, so I'm in my happy place.
He has a burrito. He's so ready to voice Haas.
Yeah, Haas is just my speaking voice.
Yeah, we're ready. See you guys next time. You thought we were done. You thought it was over.